All right, so we're here with Jennifer Eggers and Addison Eggers, and we're talking about student engagement. So, Jennifer, can you tell me a little bit about your background in education?
I've been a teacher now for 25 years. I've taught every grade except for kindergarten and first grade at this point.
Cool.
And it's all been in Bakersfield, California.
Awesome. Cool. And Addison, you're in high school.
Yep, at Bakersfield Christian High School, and I'm going into sophomore year.
Wow, congratulations. Okay, so when was the first time you felt engaged as a student? This is for both of you, so you can decide who answers first.
Okay, so I really like when teachers use some sort of like hand motion, because those always stick out to me, and it helps my brain memorize it faster. So when a teacher engages by like, okay, so for like the denominator, it's going to be denominator, or like something like that. That helps. Don't know why it does, but it does. And that engages me. It makes me want to focus, because I have to look at the teacher.
Cool. What about you, Jennifer?
When I know that there's a possibility that I'm going to have to answer.
Having that accountability.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what really engages you. Or that's the first time you felt engaged in the class.
Right.
Cool.
Right. And it's even better though pro tip would be make sure that like there's that accountability that I'm going to be successful, right? Because then I'm going to like you if you help me be successful. Or you hold me accountable in such a way that I can't fail at my accountability-ness.
Gotcha.
So
kind of whatever the response is, it's scaffolded. So you start with success and then...
Right.
Okay.
Like Addison and I were talking about earlier about how calling on students, like how at the beginning of a school year you know which ones to call on.
And which ones to probably not call on. Because you want to call on the more extroverted at first, and then go down to the introverted. Because if you just start calling on introverted kids, they are going to hate you and think you are picking on them. So you need to start with working with the extroverted and slowly make your way down. It'll make you feel more comfortable and not so like...
And build that relationship.
Yes, and build that relationship with them first before you start calling on them in the middle of class. Because if I'm not introverted, but if I was, that would be like my biggest fear. Is being called in class and having the wrong answer. So having that relationship with my teacher first and then she calling on me would make it way much better.
So you're saying that the relationship with your teacher makes a big difference on how you're engaged as a student?
Yes. And if your teacher spends the time to make a relationship with you, then I'm going to be 10 times more engaged because I know my teacher. But if my teacher doesn't spend any effort trying to like get to know the class, and doesn't ask us fun questions or does any of that, then I'm going to be like, she doesn't care. So why should I?
Why do you think the relationship is so important? And this can be for either of you, but why do you think the relationship is so important for student engagement to be there?
So that mutual respect?
Yeah, mutual respect. And then, like, if my teacher cares about me, then, or like, if I'm supposed to care about the class, I'm supposed to care about my teacher, what she's teaching, then she should care for me too. Like, it should go back and forth, or else if she doesn't care, then why should I care? Like, it's respect, yeah.
Tell them, like we were talking a minute ago about like using a popsicle stick to call out kids.
Which is...
She doesn't like what she was saying.
It's okay, but I honestly think it's a waste of time. And if there's a number on that popsicle stick, and you go, all right, number 7, what's the answer? Don't call me number 7. My name is Addison Eggers. Call me by my name.
Okay.
Do not call me a number. Do not call me by like a shape. Like if you're in kindergarten, you call me like, you're going to be circle and you're going to be square. No, I have a name. Use it.
Yeah.
And it feels so much better when you have that name recognition. And they're like, all right, Gabe, what's the answer? Rather than going, all right, number 8.
So if the popsicle sticks had names on them, would that be better?
Yes, but then sometimes it happens where the teacher pulls out the popsicle stick and she's like, all right, Lauren. Is Lauren here today? Is Lauren here today? It's like, that makes me feel invisible because I am here today. And you took roll 5 minutes ago. I know you're forgetful, but make that eye contact with me and then call me. Don't just pull out a popsicle stick and be like, is she here? Did she go to the restroom?
Right.
Like,
you kind of don't want to verbalize that. You'd have to like kind of look up, oh, she's not here, put that aside type of thing. You wouldn't want to say it out loud.
Yeah, because then that makes the student feel invisible and be like, oh, she obviously isn't even caring.
Okay.
at the moment. So why should I care? Again, going back to that like respect.
I'm hearing a lot about how the relationship with the teacher and the student is important for engagement for you. Cool. Okay.
It's interesting, her take on it. And then also she was saying, like, you know how we have those kids off task? So I'll usually go stand next to them. I'm always reluctant to like call them out on that, like, because I don't ever want to make a kid feel bad. But she had
Go for it. You're a teacher. You got the degree.
That's part of your power in the classroom, Mom. You need to be calling on Timmy when he's not paying attention. You need to put him on the spot and make him feel that
because
pressure.
More than likely, Timmy's not paying attention to get attention from the other students. So give him that attention that he doesn't want. And then he got his attention, but it wasn't the way he wanted it, but he still got attention.
Yeah, for some kids that definitely works, for sure.
So it's just kind of interesting, like as she is, and I'm like, well, should we just call on the 5 hands that are always raising up? And she's like, no, don't have them raise hands. Just be
say,
like, Sarah, what is the answer for number 10? Like just like our popsicle stick it or just random. Like we're gonna have this lesson, and you're just gonna interact with the kids, and you're gonna ask out questions and name that person throughout your lesson.
Right.
And then they never know whose name might be coming up next, so then
they have to pay attention.
They have to pay attention. There's like that. Element of surprise, right? So I'm going to have to pay attention because she may or may not be calling on me at any given time.
And then it eliminates, like, at least for a student, like the awkwardness of like raising my hand and being like, is she going to call me? Or like, what am I supposed to do?
Okay.
That helps too.
Right. So Jennifer, when you feel like you're being called on and you're expected to know the answer, and that's your first memory of being engaged as a student, how did that make you feel?
Well, if this teacher had set it up in such a way that I knew the answer, then it makes me like school, right? It makes me love learning. I got this. I can do this. Like,
gives you confidence.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And what about if you don't know the answer? How does it make you feel?
Not so great, right?
Yeah.
That's that. But then it's that, to me, then that comes back to the teacher being where they need to be to help me facilitate so that I can still save face, so to speak.
But not only that, but it's okay.
Not shut down.
But it's okay for the student to not know.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for the student to say, I don't know. And no one should make that, like, I feel like there's such, like, a stereotype of, like, I don't know the answer. Oh, he doesn't know the answer, he's dumb, you know? But, like, I feel like that's okay.
Why do you feel like it's okay for someone to not know the answer?
Because no one's perfect, and no one's going to know everything. So you have to be patient with that.
And that's one of those norms that you have to build into that classroom, right? To as a teacher, like, to make this a safe place. Like, we might not all know. We can ask Google, or we're going to figure it out together, right?
Right.
But just to offer that vulnerability and maybe even share stories. Like, that was another thing that Addison was talking about earlier with me, is the idea of when teachers make learning personal, there's more of an element of engagement when they share like a personal connection to it, or what else were you telling me, like a personal story, or they use a word problem in math with the kids' names in the classroom.
Right.
Yeah, or like how many traffic cones are on the highway. Who cares about traffic cones? What about how many donuts can Ethan eat in 1 minute or something? Like add like some fun, something that's gonna draw their attention. Oh, donuts? I like donuts. Let's listen, you know? Rather than how many traffic cones are on the side of the highway when a car drives by at 5 miles per hour. It's like, who cares?
Tell Hans about your memorization at Bible camp. This is hilarious.
Okay, so for Bible camp, we had to memorize a Bible verse, and it's six sentences, okay? So it's like a full paragraph, and there are 50 kids on my team. So the color lead is like, so how do we want to memorize this? Because we need to memorize it. How are we going to do it? And I'm like, let's do hand motions. So I go up with my friend Cindy, and we get these 50 high schoolers to memorize a paragraph long of the memory verse to recite it that day. And I still remember.
They won the challenge, and she can still do it to this day.
Yeah, this momentary affliction is preparing for us, and it goes on and on and on. But
That looks like sign language.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But it triggers and it helps you remember.
So she's like, Mom, you need to be doing more hand motions and like gestures.
And I got me and my friend Cindy, we're freshmen, right? And we got other upperclassmen to pay attention and to be like, okay, we're gonna do this, you know? And this is at summer camp, and this is the Bible too. So it's kinda like,
what do you think was so engaging about that?
well, it's something to look at. First off, like you're doing something, so
Right.
it's rather than just like sitting here and being monotone, being like, okay, so now we're gonna, you know.
So you're looking.
Yeah, well, people are looking, you know,
Right.
they're looking at us doing it, and then they're doing it back at us, and we go
Okay.
section by section. So there's like responsibility there too. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna do the first sentence, and we do the first sentence, and then we have them repeat it back.
Okay.
And that's
Ooh, man. Someone may be a teacher when they grow up. Or
I
I guess
can't
you're
be a
already
teacher.
kind of a teacher.
Kind of is. But
I can't be a teacher.
yeah, her mother's already forbidden her. I'm like, you are too good for this profession.
Okay.
But that speaks to her learning. Like she is very aware of her learning style and what it takes for her to learn.
Sounds
So-
like you're a kinesthetic learner.
I don't even know what that means, but sure.
Yes.
You learn your body. with
Yes.
action. Cool.
And how many kids are there like that? But yet, how many teacher manuals, Hans, and how many lesson plans do you ever see where those gestures or do this hand motion or that, is that ever included? It's never there.
The other thing is,
You can think of it up on your own, Mrs. Eggers, in your own free time. And you're like, oh my God, this
But-
is another thing to do.
rather than having the teacher think it up, we had kids. We were like,
Right.
what should we do for light? What should we do for light? And one kid was like, we should do this. And we're like, that's perfect. This, and then we did it.
Why
so
do you
like,
think letting some of the kids participate, why do you think that would be engaging?
because they're getting to like add into it, and that's not going to be part of the whole hand motion, and that's part of the bigger picture, and they played a piece into that, and that adds importance and confidence and builds them up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it also uses their creativity too, even if it's just simple like light.
There's a bunch of advantages
Yeah.
to having kids own it.
Yeah.
And that's like our color lead. She could have totally just been like, all right, we're gonna learn hand motions and I'm gonna create them, but instead she called on 2 freshman girls to come up and create them and asked the class to create them back,
Okay.
rather than just her doing it all herself.
That's awesome.
She just steps aside and was like, all right, girls, you got this. And we're like, great, let's go.
You two are like twins.
In some ways, are you seeing that? Yeah.
Yeah.
First, maybe personality, extrovertedness, talkativeness, Hans. Right?
All right. So this will be more geared towards Jennifer, but I'm sure Addison will be able to
She'll
comment.
probably have an opinion, yes.
Jennifer, tell me about a time when you made a great choice with engaging students, or something, a lesson or anything that ended up being really engaging. Can you tell me about a time when that happened?
Let me think for a second.
Yeah, take your time.
What was a time that we did a really engaging? Just trying to even think, like right now, with
I can think of one for you.
okay, help me help remind me, Addison.
So like,
I probably.
you were learning about the environment, and
Yeah.
you had them do those trash robots, and they had
Oh
to like
yeah,
do.
that's right. Trash robots, Hans.
Tell
That's
me
true.
about that.
Trash robots. Oh my gosh, these were funny. I got this idea from Addison when she was in school because she remembered doing this in 5th grade, and she's now.
And this
I
was
think
engaging.
you shared it with me,
I shared it
right?
with you, yeah. So they each were supposed to bring in 2 items of trash. I told them the day before, tomorrow bring into class 2 items of trash. You're going to use it to make something.
Okay.
And of course, half of them, this is at the end of the year, so half of them forgot to bring in trash.
Oh,
but
no.
luckily, the thing is the recycle bin is right next to the classroom, so they could go to the recycle bin and pick out 2 items of trash.
Like your big old maker space.
Right?
Cabinet
So,
right there.
Right, exactly. So then, and I gave them 1 roll of tape, like just that clear tape, and then I think I told them they had like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I didn't necessarily say the time until they were engaged in it, and I could kind of see how it was going.
Okay.
And then the requirements were they had to have a name for the robot. The robot had to do something great for the environment. And this is like after Earth Day. So this is like, we had already studied about the Earth and how it has problems and
Right.
what types of Earth things would need to, like recycling, like what do we need to do for the Earth?
Okay.
And they worked in groups. I think I put them in teams of only 4.
Okay.
So that was helpful. So the teams weren't too big, right?
Yeah.
So then they worked in group of 4, and then they could use. I let them go to the recycle bin one time if somebody didn't have 2 pieces of trash, and then once they all, so there would have been 8 pieces, right, of trash, 2 per your 4 members, and then they could visit like 1 more time. And I also set out like construction paper, like scraps of construction
Sure.
paper. And then they just had to build a robot and had to have a name, and they had to come up as a group and present the robot and its name and tell me what the robot did that would make the Earth better.
Okay.
And it was awesome. They loved it. They were busy for over an hour.
Oh my gosh.
And that was without presentations. It took longer than I thought, but they got into it and they put like little faces on their robots and they made them have some human qualities, and then they were all different and they all did different things. And
when they were presenting, what did you notice while they were presenting?
That they were passionate about what they just made. Like the thing of it is that it was funny because they all wanted to take that robot home, right? So then it became like, okay, who gets to keep the robot, right? So we ended up rolling dice to see the high number to take it. But I wasn't expecting, it's trash ultimately, but because they had worked on it, it was no longer trash. It was like this thing that did this wonderful thing, right? So for the Earth, and it had a name.
And they used their creativity to create that and make that come together.
Yeah. So
why do you think that was so engaging?
I think because they all were a part of it, right? And they had to work as a team, and it wasn't just like a worksheet. And I gave them very few parameters, you know what I mean? Like I let them figure that out, you know what I mean? Like I let them have a Chromebook if they wanted to like research something, you know what I mean? But
they also took something they learned and applied it to real life.
Right. And they had some really great ideas about problems that they had studied about for Earth Day, or problems with the Earth, and then like if we could create anything in the world as a robot, how could it fix this problem? So it was impressive. It's like, what? We do need to make these robots. So
that's so fun. That sounds like so much fun.
Yep. It was. I'm trying to think even like during like summer school right now with what we're doing, and I think the most engaging part of the program that we're using is like what they call it the challenge part. And it's where they set up a challenge for them as a group or a team or a tribe, whatever you want to call it, to overcome. Okay. And sometimes there's defined roles and sometimes there's not. Like one of the challenges they did a couple days ago, like group of 4, 2 people were the communicator, 2 people could be on the Chromebook. Okay. But the people that were communicating couldn't see the Chromebook, and the people on the Chromebook couldn't see what the communicators had. Okay. So that was highly engaging because they had to use all these communication skills to describe. They were trying to wire a circuit box, and so they had the direction manual. Me and Addie had the direction manual. You have the same circuit on your screen. Okay. But we had to describe to you which wires go on the manual that we're looking at, and you're not allowed to see what we're looking at. That was really fun to sit back and watch too, because the kids would be like, "It's the first wire on over there," and the kid on the Chromebook is like, "On where?" Exactly.
It's almost like getting support over the phone, or like the game of telephone,
or the getting support over the phone, and you're like, "Okay, I don't understand what you want me to do on this computer," right?
Oh, that's funny.
But that was a really fun challenge for kids to kind of work through that communication process. And then afterwards, we debriefed and we talked about like what makes good communication. Like, was it just you listening to these two telling you, or did you also have to know how to ask the right questions, right? Like we have to speak the right way, but we also have to listen to what people are telling us. Like it goes both back and forth. Yeah. And so for kids to get that idea instead of like, as a teacher just saying, you're going to need to communicate with one another.
Right. Like, you could have written out the definition and had a lesson on that, whereas they got to experience it.
Right. And what goes wrong when we can't do it as a team? Like, what made that team win at that challenge versus this team over here? Right. So
what is it, these two examples you mentioned both have teamwork. Right. What is it about teams that's so engaging versus just the individual?
Well, you get to communicate with people, and then it also is relatable because you're surrounded by people who are just like you, and that makes it relatable. It makes you be like, oh, we're all kind of in the same boat.
Well, and I think too, it holds those kids that are technically introverts and don't really want. It helps them be held accountable without an adult pushing their thumb on them all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's a little bit of peer pressure
in a positive way, right?
Right. Yeah. because each person has to contribute, so
Right.
it's kind of expected
Right.
socially.
And I'm finding that with the kids that I'm working with at summer school, I'm finding that oftentimes they will be more accountable to that group and the other people in their group than they would be to me as a teacher.
Yes.
Because I'm just a teacher. I'm just this other adult. But no, Johnny is my friend, and I want our tribe to win. And I'm on the same tribe as my friend Johnny, so we're going to do this together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
there's some camaraderie
right.
and almost a team element.
Also, like the aspect of competition, because that's something you're pushing towards and you're striving for. Like when we did the memory verse thing, that was on we were a team, and we were Team Blue, and we needed to win for the whole summer camp. So that was what was pushing us to like
That was
memorize
your
these.
motivation.
That was our motivation. So having a motivation, like an end goal, is important.
A common goal, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And Addison, what about you? Tell us about a time when you thought a teacher did a really great job of engaging the class.
Probably like my math teacher, she would, like the word problems that she did, rather than going off the word problems in the book, she would like apply it to the class, or that something was going on in our classroom that she knew about or something.
Or in the world.
Yeah, or like
current
about,
event.
yeah, something like, it'd be like something fun rather than just something that was like, I don't know, she like changed the word problems so it was kind of easier to understand and it was relatable.
Okay.
And then my math teacher also, she made sure that she had a really, really good relationship with each one of her students, which made everybody in that class respect her and then just pay attention. So there was very less behavioral issues in that class because of that. And then like for some of my other teachers, what I would notice is why there was so many like talking or there were so many behavioral issues, it would be because the teacher didn't really respect us and he didn't try to push that respect back
Right.
and forth. He kind of just was like, "Yep, here's the stuff. Do what you want with it, you know."
Yeah.
Rather than trying to get to know us individually.
Okay. And the first example where the teacher was personalizing it to the class and making it relatable. What about that makes that engaging for students?
Well, when you hear like your friend's name being used in a word problem, it's just like, oh, I know that person. Let's listen. Or like just like some like certain words, like the word, like when you talk about food or like video games or anything that's relatable. Like, and then I don't know, my brain at least is automatically picks up on that. And it's like, oh, maybe I should listen. What about that's about? Rather than talking about something that's boring or like that I just don't interest in.
Right.
So I don't know. Our teacher she knows that Fortnite's kind of lame, in my opinion. So she used like V-Bucks as an example, and all the kids were like, "Really? Boo!" We all booed it. You know, we were like V-Bucks, but that made us all
people are done with Fortnite.
and we were like, "That's for little kids." But because of that, we then paid attention. Because
Even though it was lame.
Even though it was lame, but it was funny.
It was connecting to something you were familiar
Yes, and it was. It made us pay attention to that, and then we all booed it, and then we were all paying attention again. You know.
Because you have an opinion about it.
Yes, and we all had the same opinion, too.
Interesting.
Which was like, up. And then
It's almost like reverse psychology a little bit. That's cool. Interesting. Okay, cool. All right, so this question is for Jennifer. How are we doing on time, first of all?
Oh, we're fine.
Okay.
We have to leave here in about 30 minutes. We have to go to a piano lesson this afternoon.
All right, we'll
Yeah,
do
we're
rapid
fine.
fire questions.
We're
So,
fine.
you already submitted your biggest challenge or frustration, but I want to go deeper with you. Remind us, what is your biggest challenge or frustration
Do you
with
have
student
it?
engagement?
Do you have,
I do.
I'm trying to remind myself. I wrote you 3 different ones in 3 different places.
I definitely saw
Did I pick the
2.
same 3
Fine.
or the same 2?
Jennifer. That's Jennifer.
How good is that, Matt? Can it find us?
Yes. So your first challenge was. Wait, is that you? No, that's another Jennifer.
I know,
You need
how
to
many-
look for Eggers.
Yeah, maybe so.
There we go.
You
Okay.
probably know several of them.
All right. So your challenge was keeping kids at all levels engaged without them being set apart.
Right.
And then also
Yep.
setting up or prepping student engaging activities.
Yep.
So
So both of those speak to like time, right?
time.
The time to do all the, like, to me, time. Because although, you know, you want, it's like we were talking about a minute ago with that scaffolding to hold those kids accountable. Like, you as a teacher have to go through that lesson ahead of time and have those questions kind of prepped so that even the low kids will have some sort of input and be held accountable at some point in that lesson. And they're not just thinking, oh, I can check out, I don't understand this. She's just going to call on the smart kids that she already knows the answer, right?
Right. So why do you think keeping all the kids at all levels engaged is so important?
Well, because we've all got the common end goal, right? Which is to learn this standard by the end of the school year, right? Like,
right.
to be successful at X, Y, and Z. So if I have the same goal for all kids, then I've got to figure out a way to engage them all so that we can all get to that end point.
And why is it so difficult to engage all the levels versus just a few?
Because they're different. They think differently, right? And it's not even levels, but like for Addison, like, she's going to want the kinesthetic put into that lesson, right?
Right.
And then there's going to be other kids that really do just want to be able to read it and have the time to read over something 10 times and be like, okay, I got it memorized. I've seen it in front of me, you know? They just want a quiet place, you know what I mean?
Right.
They don't necessarily need some girl over here doing all these motions to what, you know what I mean? So,
right.
because the needs, each kid has a different need of how they want to learn that material, and it's hard as a teacher when there's only one of you and you've got 30 in the classroom.
Right.
So it's almost kind of like at the beginning of the year, like Addison was saying, like taking maybe an inventory of like, and asking the kids, like, you know, very simply, how do you think that you learn your best? And,
right.
and trying to make
Figuring
them
that
aware of their learning.
Some of my teachers at the beginning of the school year will have us take out a piece of notebook paper and like give us like a little survey. It'll be like 3 questions, and it would be like, there'll be simple questions. One of them might be a funny question, and then one of them is, how do you learn? And you have to write in your best words, how would you learn?
Okay.
And mine is always with hand motions and verbally speaking it out loud. So, and that always helps the teacher just get to know that student just by that one simple question.
And then she, like her math teacher this year, she's noticed Addison likes to talk out loud when she does anything. So she's learned that she'll do better on a test if she can
verbally speak it out loud. Because
Like,
I have so
first
much
I do this,
in my
second I do
brain,
this.
and I just need to like
Get it out.
So then I'm just like, okay, so you're gonna do this, okay, perfect, and then you're gonna subtract this. That's
So
the
she
first
put
step.
her
And
over
then
into
the
like
second
a
step-
corner so she could take her math test and go talk to herself, like away from
That's
her,
great.
so she's not distracting other
Others.
people.
Right.
But it helped her math grade and her testing ability a lot.
Wow.
Versus
That's really
being like,
cool.
no, you have to figure out how to do this silently.
Yeah, in your head.
Okay.
And that goes along, like, I mean, I think about it with reading. Like, how often do we, as an upper grade teacher, just assume, oh, by 5th and 6th grade, they should be able to silently read. But there are kids that they're going to understand, she's one of them, she's going to understand the story 50 times better if she can read it out loud.
Because she's audible.
Audible, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when my teacher would have a silent read, I would just like, I whisper to myself.
Yeah.
And if it's a
Whisper
story
read.
with different characters, I would come up with different voices for these characters because then I can actually like
And then
depict
sometimes
them in my head.
the book would just end up coming home and we'd do that as homework because she's like, Mom, I can't do this in class in a way that I'm going to understand it. I need to
Right.
read it out loud with my different voices and like it has to become animated, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So recognizing that as a teacher then and allowing that within your classroom and be like, I don't care if
Another
you
idea-
it doesn't have to be absolutely silent right now, you know?
What about individualized learning is so difficult? Why is that such a big challenge?
Because we're in a confined space, right? And it's idealistic to think that we can differentiate 30 different ways, which really needs to happen as one person. But in order to actually do that 30 times with every single thing that you're teaching, I'm just like, it's like basically 30 different lessons, right? There's just not enough.
Right.
There's not enough time and even, I mean, you can group similar kids of how they learn, but in reality, we all learn a little differently. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Right.
And it's also really important for the kids to understand the different ways that people may learn. So rather than just grouping the kids that all learn the same way, group them with different kids, and they can learn from each other about other ways to learn.
Right.
Because
and I haven't ever made a grouping like that, but moving forward, I mean, that would be like these teams that we're talking about, like put a kinesthetic learner with a, like think about those abilities instead of just like your highs and your lows, mixing them that way, or mixing them like a boy group and a girl group, or, like, sometimes I do it by personality, but just even thinking about the different learning modalities and then trying
and then
to set
that's
up
teaching the
groups that
kids other ways that people may learn and giving them like a bigger picture again, like other kids and how that might.
So sometimes homogeneous, similar learning styles, some projects heterogeneous where they're seeing different ways of learning.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, and then I'm gonna
And getting some patience with other people, other kids in that, like, what I mean? Like understanding, because that's the real world, right? When you go out into the workforce, you're going to be forced to work with people that all function in different ways.
Because when I was, not so much now because high school's a little different, but when I was younger, I'd always be grouped with, usually I was never with there was like 5 like really good students, and I was one of those really good students. So my teacher would always put me with the group of not so great students. And what do you know? I'm doing all the work, and they just get to sit there and just cross their arms. So I feel like, I just have like 3 kids. I would just be like, okay, what are we doing? And I'd be like, are you serious, guys? It'd be frustrating for me to have that patience. So maybe taking like, just splitting that up and not making it all, it's, I don't know.
To be aware of that as a teacher.
So last question, and maybe one why question. What is your biggest hope, dream, or desire relating to student engagement?
That we could come up with some, like some different strategies, so that maybe the way lessons are delivered by teachers actually address the problem or solve the problem. Like, I think this is a solvable, fixable issue. I just don't think that the way that we currently are doing school or setting up our classrooms, or
it's not designed
to, the way our systems in place currently are not designed to solve this problem. However, if we could open up our minds and set up the system a little differently, we could solve this problem quite easily.
Right.
And I mean, it might even take like a big idea of looking outside of the education realm and seeing how companies such as like Google or some of these other companies, large scale, how they get people to work together and engage in the work that they're doing.
Right. And I know.
So. And
I know you mentioned.
Yeah. What else did I say?
I know you mentioned to make learning fun. Oh, and I think there's another Eggers. And then also, so pretty much the same thing for all students to love to learn new things and to not find school boring.
Right.
So,
because once a person gets into that mindset that this is boring or I don't need to know this, I mean, we've lost them.
Right.
If nothing else, in elementary school, we should be fostering the love of learning in all children.
Why do you think that's so important?
Because without it, they're not ever going to go on to be successful in anything. You've got to have that love to get through high school, and that willingness and that motivation, right?
Why does success depend so much on developing that love of learning? What about success?
Because everything takes learning. You have to learn anything and everything. And that you have to learn success as well. Like, you have to learn what that is and how that works and how it all comes together. And you have to also learn what failure is too, which is the not so fun part. And then the thing with kids and at least students, like, you fail once and then it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. And you're done.
Right.
So you have to, like, that level of learning is when that comes in, because it teaches that kid, like, but because I have a passion for it, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not just going to fail and then never try again, you know?
They're motivated.
It gives that motivation.
internal motivation versus trying to win a prize or first place or
Yes.
Okay.
And that is hard to foster that internal motivation, especially in a world where we are so externally motivated 99% of the time. Like, how do you foster that when that's not necessarily being taught by parents at home or fostered anywhere else, let's say in a school environment? And there's even schools now that are not focused on internal motivators. I mean, with the idea of PBIS in particular, it's more like, okay, well, we're going to earn Husky Bucks or E-Bucks or Reagan Bucks or whatever, and then you're going to get to go to a store and you get to buy a prize or,
Right.
and it's just like...
It's a lot of external, but when you take that away...
What is there?
Yeah.
Right. So would we be better as educators and as schools is focusing on ways that we can focus on creating that internal drive?
Right.
And personally, I very strongly do not like the idea of the Reagan Bucks or like the good, like for when you do something good, you get a prize. Because
Why don't you like that?
Because majority of the time, you're not going to catch me doing something good. Because I'm probably doing kindness. The definition of kindness is when you do something nice for someone, but no one else can see it. And when you're kind of like paying a student for doing something good, it's like I'm doing something good too, but you just didn't see it, and then that makes me just be like, well, why did I do it? Maybe I'm only going to be good when the principal's around.
Right.
Because he's the one that hands those out. I'm not going to be good around my teacher because she doesn't hand those out. She doesn't have that power.
Right.
But when the principal's around, I'm on my best behavior. But my teacher, she could care less because she doesn't have that power.
Right.
And I feel like that's building even more issues, even more behavioral issues, because it's like, I'm going to be good now? No, I'm not. It's like,
Right.
what does that do?
Interesting.
And
I want to respect your ladies' time.
Yes.
Is there any last things that you guys want to comment or anything that you think I should know about student engagement before we close
I did
up?
have like an idea. So much in like high school you can't really do this, and middle school you can't because set classes. But for me, it's really helpful when I split up. Like if I have an hour of math to do, I'd much rather do 30 minutes, take a long, nice break, and do something else, and then do another 30 minutes, rather than doing a whole hour. Because then my brain starts wandering, and I'm not paying attention for as long. Or even if it's really, really hard math, then I'm going to take like a 15-minute break. I'm going to do 15 minutes and then take a break. 15 minutes and then it might take longer, but my brain is more focused and concentrated.
Why do you think that is? That those short bursts of
Because
focused learning?
I'm not just dragging and trying to just shove information.
She's like, Mom, when you're behind 2 lessons in math, that doesn't mean you get to teach an extra 2 hours of math that next day because you've got to get caught up on the lessons and you just go straight through those 2 lessons. She's like, don't do that to the kids, Mom.
That is
like,
awful.
She's like,
because they're probably they paid attention
so
for
guilty.
because they
right?
Yeah.
Me too.
So
Me
guilty.
too. She's like, Mom, they're not even getting the second
They probably
lesson.
paid attention for maybe the first 10 minutes, and then you told them that there's 2 lessons to get through the day, and they were like, oh, screw this, I don't know.
Turn off.
Yeah, turn off. I don't know what I'm doing.
So she's like, Mom, give them 15 minutes and then go do your language arts, to go do science, and then maybe you do math again after lunch that day.
Right.
Or after recess, another 15 minutes, and you'll slowly get through it. But you're doing things in between, and then
She's like, Mom, it's super important that you chunk that learning. You cannot just
shove it.
give them a power session of 2 hours. And I'm like, oh no.
Well,
oh no.
Addison, next time you're running a seminar, make sure you invite me, because I want to be there.
Right? But I know as teachers we all get that. Or I'm like, I got an hour and a half block between now and recess. I'm going to get this, and this covered. Well, yeah, we covered it, but like she's reminding me, Mom, they didn't. They weren't.
they
with
didn't
you.
learn that.
They didn't
And
learn
it
that.
seems like there's certain age levels that require certain timing
Right.
limits
Right.
for learning.
Well, and she
for
was telling
focus.
me, she was reminding me how she studied. Tell Hans how you study for finals.
When I study for finals, as I study for math for 15 minutes, and then I used to take a 5-minute break, and then I go to language arts for 15 minutes, science for 15 minutes, and then I take another nice long break, and then I go back to math. I do like a circuit rather than just getting through it all.
So what you're doing is based on research on college students who were tested to see how much time they study, and right about 25 minutes their productivity started dropping.
Right.
And every minute or hour or whatever after that, their retention would dip down, versus the students who studied for 25 minutes, then took a 5-minute break, like playing video games or doing something else, did another 25, and they retained like
way more information. For me, it's frustration, because when I'm over that like 30-minute limit, then I just start getting frustrated, because I'm like, I'm not getting this, and I don't have time for this, and this is wasting my time, and then I go into a spiral of this sucks, and math sucks, and I hate English, and I don't want to take finals anymore. So then I have to realize that I need to take those breaks, because those breaks are helping me. Even though it may seem at times like I'm wasting my time, I'm not, because those are giving my brain a minute to like chill out and relax and
it's
recenter.
Interesting. Like in summer school right now, they set up a schedule where we have 2 recesses. Okay, what? 2 recesses before you would go at lunch, right? But it's weird because we can play the game or do a focused activity the first like hour and a half, and then we have a break for 15 minutes, and we come back for only like 40 minutes, and then we get another break, and then we leave. And then we have a break, and then we come back for like another 40 minutes, and then it's over. So
interesting.
It makes the morning go really fast, but I find that the kids between those 2 recess breaks, that is like the golden 40 minutes of instruction.
Really?
Like whatever, I try to time that challenge that we're doing in that time. But
that's when
it
they're
is
most focused.
Yes, and engaged.
Why do you think
So
that is? What about that time?
I think that they've had a little break. They come back, get a drink of water, had a little play, like got some of their wiggles out, and then they can come back and write whatever I ask. They never complain during that 40 minutes.
Right.
And they're focused, they're engaged, they're doing whatever it is that we're doing. And then they also know that there's a time limit, because guess what? In 40 more minutes, I'm going to get to go back outside.
Right.
So
they can kind of have that perseverance, because they see the end goal.
Right. And they know,
And
they know it's a definite thing that's going to happen. So it's made me like really rethink, like I don't know how my schedule's going to look next year at 6th grade, but it's made me really rethink, and I feel like at this point I could go in and make a valid argument to the principal and be like, guess what, we are going to do PE before lunch instead of at the end of the day, because my kids need this learning break at this time. And I don't care that your first graders are out there having their recess for their lunch. Sorry,
Right.
It's a big playground, we're going to zone off and we're going to be over here, I feel like
That's
from
interesting.
this going on this year, I just feel like I could speak from this
PE
experience.
is like the back burner.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you guys do it at the end of the day, but we barely got to it this year. It was
Right,
it was bad.
but we really need to be using. We need, like, if he's not going to give me 2 recesses, or he's going to be like, I don't want them out there on the field having free time, and he calls it, they need to be in a structured play activity, which is essentially PE, right? Then I'm thinking I'm going to take those PE minutes and have that become part of my break, or do PE like in the classroom, like with one of the, they have that, what is it, the videos?
Go Noodle?
Go Noodle, there you go. Take a Go Noodle break. Like she's saying, like...
I need to find the middle school Go Noodles. I don't know what they are.
You can make middle schoolers do it. We did it in middle school.
Yeah?
The kids cringed and laughed, and it was the funniest things. And I had a teacher who would video record us doing it. It was hilarious.
Well, then I got to bring it back, because
you-
I do have a lot of groans when I bring out Go Noodle from time to time with my 5th graders.
Right.
For us, it's chaotic and it's hilarious.
Okay.
And
Did it help with Mr. Frank's relationship with you? Mm-hmm. So Mr. Frank was the PE teacher, and he had a relationship with all of you. He was goofy and funny, and
we did Go
Did
Noodle.
you guys do it inside or outside?
We did it outside. We did it inside. It was whatever. If it was raining, inside. If it was beautiful and sunny out,
How did he project it outside?
well,
Just out of curiosity.
that is.
Or was it just audio?
It was kind of like audio.
Okay.
So it would. I might have not been Go Noodle, but it would have been like the ones where it was like reach up to the sky, reach down low, go to the side, or like jump in place. Like one of those.
Okay.
and then he would film you. Would he show you the video later?
No, but we knew he was filming, and we'd all just be like.
Oh my gosh.
Or we do it. Sometimes we do it. There's a projector in the gym, and we do it with all the
Okay.
3 PE classes.
Oh.
And that is really chaotic, and that is hilarious. So we'd all just be watching the giant screen. We'd just be like,
Oh my gosh. We're up there, right? So there was accountability.
So wait a second. Big screen. Are you watching Go Noodle?
no, we're
or-
watching Go Noodle.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I know
Okay.
what you're saying.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you weren't ever projected on that screen?
No.
No. Okay.
But we were
Okay.
watching Go Noodle, but we were all like standing there, and then it's just funny. You know,
Right.
it was more of like a joke than kind of like, this is PE, you better be participating, doing it right now. It's more of like, fun joke, let's have a dance party, you know, type thing. And that kind of made us all be like, okay,
That's
We're gonna
cool.
try it. We're gonna do it.
and what mom's saying about like the breaks in between, like the 2 recesses, that's why I think it's really good in high school, is because we have that 45 minutes and then we have 5-minute passing period.
Right.
And then 45 minutes and then a 5-minute passing period.
Okay.
And that breaks up the day, and then you know that there is going to be an end. There
Yeah.
is going to be an end to this math class. It is not going to go on for eternity.
So that
So-
gives you a little bit more endurance to
Yes.
kind of push
Or
through.
like when I was in elementary school and my teacher would set a timer for 40 minutes to do math. And then we'd just stop. And that was because it was going to end. It wasn't going to go on and on and
Right.
on.
Yeah.
There will be a stopping point,
Teachers,
which is helpful.
They love to push it past that boundary.
Well,
Well,
'cause
I
they're-
try to
I
take it
do.
up until that recess break. Is what I'm
yeah.
guilty. I'm so guilty. I'm like, okay, if I can get this to last an hour and a half, I'm golden. Let's see what we can do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which is not what's good for kids.
Right.
It's got me rethinking that, especially like through summer school, and it just even talking to her. She's like, Mom, I love. That's one of the things she likes most about high school or even middle school is like, there's this like.
There is an
defined-
end, and then there's a time where I can get up and I can go walk around campus with my friends, and then I need to go back to class. Like, there is an end, and then there will be a break.
That's awesome. Ladies, I don't
Yeah.
want to keep you any longer. I know you got to go. Thank you so much